Hello friends, so here's today's YouTube channel Philosophy and Music Talk. What I'd like to talk about very briefly today, and I always try and keep these things brief, very briefly I'm going to improvise a talk on ending. In music we call it fine or coda. Sometimes there's a coda section, the tail end, that wraps everything up. I want to link this together with a quote from Gilles Deleuze in his book on his fellow post-structuralist philosopher Michel Foucault, and the quote is, and I'm paraphrasing possibly because I'm saying it from memory, the quote is, "Nothing ends because nothing ever begins, but everything is transformed." And what I like about that is it alludes to the fact that everything is in a constant state of becoming. You might think, well, hang on a minute, okay, let's take some musical examples here. John Coltrane wrote Giant Steps. Nobody had written Giant Steps before, and then suddenly there was Giant Steps, and now there's Giant Steps in the world, so there's a definite beginning to that. But there isn't, because Coltrane had also written Central Park West. That might have been a bit later. Those thoughts were in his head about tonal centers moving around, and also there's the evidence of the Cole Porter song, the title of which I can't remember now, which has a bridge. The A section is kind of quite forgettable really, because it's just like the Timpan Alley bog standard kind of thing, but the B section moves around in a very, have you met Miss Jones? It might not be Cole Porter. Have you met Miss Jones? And the B section moves around in a similar kind of way to Coltrane's Giant Steps or Central Park West. So there are ancestors to this tune. Just because somebody came along, somebody as amazing as John Coltrane, and created Giant Steps, doesn't mean that there are not antecedents to that manner of making music. And the same in philosophy. Somebody comes up with a new concept. I came up with a new concept of time. Hey, they made me a doctor. But it doesn't mean that I came up with it out of the blue. I drew on many different ancestor ideas in that respect, most predominantly Gilles Deleuze, but he got his ideas from other philosophers, artists, writers, other thinkers. So this idea of a beginning is false as far as I make it out. Think about a gig. A gig has a definite start time, but that's chronological time. It's not aeonic time. Aeonic time is the eternal time. The fact that a gig has a particular start time only tells us that there have been other gigs before, and of course there have. We've done our own, others have done theirs. The notion, the concept of a gig, of that kind of event, predates the actual gig and event that you find yourself immersed in when somebody says, okay, it's 8:30, it's time to go on stage, let's do this. There is no beginning. Only in chronological time is there a beginning. So what about the end? Is there ever an end to anything? If there's no beginning, there's no end. This is aeonic time, eternal time. You're always immersed in the middle of it. The end of a gig, the end of a relationship, the end of any kind of involvement in the world, there's never really an ending. There's only constant transformation. So even if you're moving house, even if you're moving jobs, even if you're moving in any way, shape or form in life, even though there are certain chronological points, you hand the keys back on a certain day, etc., etc. The gig finishes, you go home. Something remains of that thing because it's in the world now. You can't get away from that. We talk about closure, and yes, closure is important, but at the same time, things persist. Time persists. My thoughts on it are very distinct, to be honest. We carry things with us, and it's not the beginning or the end that is important. It's the way those things have transformed us, and the way we are transformed by those things, and the way we transform those things. That is what is important. What do you take from it? You think about a really good gig, what do you take from it? Do you think, oh yeah, that solo was really amazing, that line that this particular player played was really amazing? Not really. You take the feeling. And where does that feeling come? That feeling comes from the whole compass of the event. The event tantum. The eventum tantum in Latin, as Deleuze liked to use in his book Logic of Sense, which I totally recommend. And also my own thesis gets a mention in there. It's what you take with you that's important. And we tend to take only the positives when we think about the good things that we remember about a particular event. Oh yeah, sure, we can think about negative things. Maybe it was really cold in the room of the gig. Maybe somebody was talking when they should have been listening. All of those kind of things. We know about those. When you think about the beauty, and I use that term in the general sense more than the philosophical sense, because haven't really got time to go into Kant and the philosophical concept of beauty and the sublime. It's the beauty of that event that you take with you, and you keep that with you for all time, and it transforms as well. Your memories of a particular event might change, a particular life event or whatever it is, but you take something of it with you because it's part of you now. As a musician, you go on stage and you play piano or you play whatever instrument and you do your thing, but while you're doing it, the other people in the room are absorbing that. So the idea of a gig as having a definite beginning and a definite ending is wrong, philosophically, in that sense. Once these things are happening, they draw together the past, the present and the future in the event, and people are changed as a result. My good friend Petri Ayakoski once told me, hey Petri, I know you'll be watching this soon, man, once told me about Frank Zappa saying if you turn music on its side, it's an environment. And you go into that environment and you are changed as a result. This is exactly what we're talking about. So nothing ever ends because nothing ever begins. But everything is transformed. Goodbye for now, friends. Take care. Good luck. Stay safe. See you on the other side of that event.